Yeah, pictures up here about the and yeah, and I've done presentations. Maybe some familiar with like this section. So I think Alright, so, but that's just, yeah.
What did you do? It's really creepy. Yeah.
If you're like, sure, you can customize it if you can. I like it because like on your YouTube video, I can put it in and out if I want to. It doesn't always have to be
On the name right here.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, okay. We just kind of sporadically here. Well, I was chatting too. No, that's something I'll do here. Yeah. Alexis, you keep like your 40-year-old, okay? About 10 minutes. Did they tell you about the video thing? I have it built into the slide, but I just did it like, and I have it where it's going to stop and a minute because I'm not going to that's over. So
So you want me to stop?
it will stop.
No, stop it.
Okay. I just need help like over to the next after it stops.
So I can use the keyboard.
Yeah.
You did just one, right? And you're my rangers. I'm just sitting here. You know, so that's the beauty before we start, right? Because right, so this year we kept talking about it. I watched it. I'm gonna do this one. Remember, this is a passion. You're telling everybody about books.
Yeah, because I think most of you have been here before. Just make sure that at the top of your screen where it has the judge ID number, that you put your number in there and then the project ID number. is also in your packet too.
Unless I make you nervous and you're not looking at me. That's why I'm not looking. Well, we'll just sprinkle some water on your face and you're all right. All right. I'll let you reach the book. Next year. See, I paid attention to your Dr. Seuss, right? Like 90 seconds, okay?
Just leave the sign over here.
Set it up in the middle hall. Take a little replace. No, somehow, yeah.
Did you give me a number already? I told them to make sure I have notes on there and then right, they have numbers. They have the right, Alexis, are you ready?
Yeah, where do I go?
Pardon?
Do I go at 5?
Yes. You have, like, you want to wait the extra 30 seconds or?
I wasn't sure when I was supposed to
Yeah,
start.
yeah, 5 o'clock, okay. It says 4:59 on the computer. Are you good to go ahead and jump in?
Yeah.
Okay, judges, are you all ready?
Yes. Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Okay, I have lived 1,000 lives through books. What do I mean by this? I mean that once I was a dark elf drow named Dristy Worden who fought monsters in the Underdark and who walked away from a family who was cruel, vindictive, and evil. My name was Evie. I fought the paranormal like a normal 16-year-old would. I fought giants, orcs, vampires, werewolves, because it was the normal thing to do. I was also a boy named Dave who suffered through one of the worst cases of abuse in history, but survived through it. I went on all of these adventures through the books that I read. Hello, my name is Alexis Collins, and I collect print books. The reason why I chose this topic was because I've loved reading. I started reading at a very young age. Dr. Seuss and Junie B. Jones were gateway books for me to get into the books that I do read now. They taught me how to rhyme and taught me most of my grammar. In 2016, 38% of people read only print books, 6% only read digital, 28% read both, and 26% read none at all. Now, I want to change this because I feel that the more you read, the more you know. And the more you know, the more places you will go by Dr. Seuss. Look, smell, and feel all are wonderful benefits of reading print books. The smell, the look, feel, and smell all have something to do with reading comprehension. You smell something and you remember a memory, like it reminds you of something. Pictures on a printed book is what attracts readers to them. It also, the layout also enhances learning. The reason for that video was to show that whenever you read on ebooks allow you to change the alignment and the font and the print size. Now, some of this could benefit others because younger readers tend to be able to understand and read it better if it's bigger print. But this completely changes the author's intent. I have an example here. This book is by Ellen Hopkins, and she writes in verse. This is her way of writing. This is her art, and she intends it to be this way. This is what makes her books so unique, and by changing them, completely defeats the purpose. Socialization. Sharing your book with others allows you to understand that person better and get to know what it is that they like to do and what they like to learn. I, for one, love to share my books because I want to share my feelings that I have for the characters with others and see if they feel the same way. I love talking about books. Books are my passion, and I love sharing them with others. It also allows me to communicate better because I'm very shy. But when it comes to books, I'm not that shy. My passion for books is what led to my research. I've always had a passion for books, yet I just started collecting them a year ago. My senior project was a book club. I shared reading with a few of my friends and family. We read Bruiser by Neil Shusterman. This book was not too long nor too short, and it was print. I wanted them to experience the look, feel, and smell of a printed book. I wanted them to see the amazing benefits that I do. The challenges I faced during this was getting enough people who like to read, because let's face it, not very many people do. The location was an issue as well because I didn't know whether or not I was going to have my book club in the library or in another teacher's classroom. That was very frustrating because if I didn't know, how else was I supposed to tell my members? So that was frustrating for all of us. Also, time. I wasn't the only one that had a job. My friends and a few of my family members had a job as well. So I had to work around their time and mine. We went 3 to 4, and we had about 3 sessions each. I provided snacks, and we all read out loud to one another. And at the end of the session, I appointed them to a few chapters, and then once we got back, the very first thing we did at the next meeting was discuss what we read, what we thought about it, and how we enjoyed it. I have a passion for reading, and my goal is to show others that printed books are more beneficial than ebooks. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Put it there by the other side. Thank you.
Did the people in your book club enjoy the book as much as you did?
I had a few, yes. Bruiser is about a teenage boy with a gift, very special gift. I don't want to say too much because it'll ruin it, but it's a very beautiful book, and I do recommend it. It's called Bruiser by Neil Shusterman. I got it. Thank you so much, Doug. Well, I was chattering in the office room. You do. I could have just parked at your house and walked by the time that I parked at like the tech house and walked back over here. I'm like, I should have just parked at Lindsay's house. I'll say, I never. And I'm like, come away. And our chest for me to share with and so we had to Jenny. Where's Jenny? It's freezing here. That's why I always shave my jacket with me. No, maybe this isn't. This is the new edition. It stopped. Just. Maybe that was the only just before. Yeah. There was the art room where Mr. and Gary's art room. And like there was a couple of classrooms on the other side of things, and there was the door that the stairs and then the 8 upstairs there.
Yeah, I told Marty they didn't have numbers. Mine was just
I don't.
I walked in and I said, what is 118? And he said, oh, you just I don't want that. Looking for 107. I don't think we're over here. They want to know with Mrs. Peter's first.
my first year in high school, we only had 2 hallways. You couldn't get lost.
But isn't it nice we have more than that?
Oh, I know, yes.
I'm a sprinter.
Yeah.
Term is for like half an hour. And you gotta have like 20 minutes to run 4 minutes.
I'm gonna go with your stairs.
I'm in here until I go
I
to
ran
eat, so I just, yeah.
3, 2 inches, and then
I had some
4 inches.
numbers written down, like, I had kind of messed them up, and just make sure I had it correct.
She's a
so.
100.
I'm here until 6 and then I go eat.
Oh, I don't eat until 6:40.
I eat at 6. No, I wanted to go to a different room. And then hold two hostage.
Other Chromebooks around so you guys can sit by each other or how we want to do it.
I'm not.
Oh, okay. I have like, if you want to sit right here.
I never have recommendations of therapy.
Yep.
You're supposed to be a judge leader, but you can do this another day.
Yeah, we can move it up to this other one. You may not want to judge, huh?
Like I like your pineapple short.
Thank you. That's like my family.
I love your tan line.
No, I have one roll, but one not roll.
Oh, okay.
I got burnt on the top of my feet and my daughter
And
got
this
it
is
the
my
other day in the outline from my flip flop. But then that one, the day after it was severely burned, I dropped a bottle on it. And I'm pretty sure that it burned up a little bit.
I'm using very and then
But now it's starting, it's just that peeling and itchy stitch. And it was really fun because I had like 4 dots going across the top of my toes. But there was little dots in the sun.
Yeah.
It was a windy day,
Yeah.
so we had jackets on, so I got got burnt, but she got burnt because she had on shorts and
I
t-shirt.
am sure.
I didn't even think sunscreen was, so I just got, it was warm, but not
And he's
like,
like a nervous
you know,
guy.
hot. So I was like, I'm sorry.
They are.
I have like no signal in here.
Yeah, they should brick walls all the way around so you can't really get signal. I never get signal ever at school.
And I even connected to the open Wi-Fi. Yeah, and it's like not working.
The only place I get connection is town. Instead of going this way, you go the other way. We have, see, and I get, the only place I get connection is in the only place. And sometimes these are good.
You paid for it, you signed up for it. I still owe you my your show, they're gonna be there and they're gonna sell some
Like, and then.
Where do I put my?
You can move your book.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. You can move your thing and kind of use it. Hi, how are you? My mom comes in and she goes, how did you get there so fast? And I said, I got home before 30 and I was like 4 blocks from.
I will be passing out a copy of my product to all the judges. How many judges are there? 6? Okay. Here's one.
I have a question. Do I get to keep it?
Yes.
Because I was gonna take it home with me. Rescue the clipper is there for you when you need it, okay?
Okay.
No.
Anyone else?
If you have.
Sorry.
You know how much she loves comics. She likes to go to the comic book store. I'm like, I cannot do that here.
I already saw it, I said it.
And I just made a new list. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. I was with it because I didn't want to. But, yeah. I didn't. Oh, no, I didn't want to hurt you. Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel. Did you want me to do anything for you back there or just? Okay, all right, because Alexis needed me to play in her videos. Okay, all right, so click present and you're ready to go?
Yeah.
Right, fantastic.
Yes, it's up.
All right.
You still have a couple of minutes, so you're good. I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
if you need anything, all right?
She's like, I'm really feeling. He is great. He's just so excited. He really, I shouldn't have you over this. Was he nervous? That lady's giving him insurance.
I'm ready. Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Humans are always wanting to create something. We build skyscrapers, invent new technology, and create astounding structures that might not even help humans as a growing successful society. One of these reasons is for the sole purpose of art. But what exactly is art? Art is extremely subjective and has a very broad meaning. That means some people may think certain art should be recognized as such, and that is what I mean to talk about today. Hello, my name is Rodney Havens, and I think digital design, that being logos, paintings, and drawings, should be an appreciated art form for all artists. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why did I choose this subject, and why do I have my opinions on this subject? Well, it all started whenever I was 9 years old in 4th grade. I began to start drawing, creating stories about people with superpowers fighting monsters through pictures. And I soon realized that's what I wanted to do whenever I grew up. Now, whenever I actually did grow up, I decided to go digital. I wanted a graphic tablet to be able to draw online on computers and show people on websites. And that is what I wanted to do. Now, there are some misconceptions that some people believe about digital art. And one of these misconceptions is that it takes less time to create digital art. They think that it shouldn't take less time. You should be working hard on your drawings and really loving what you draw. And I totally agree. Another misconception is that it takes less skill. All the tools they have at their fingertips, using the programs like Photoshop and Illustrator, enables them to create things easier, quicker, and faster. And they think it should take just as much skill as drawing traditionally. And what it does, it trivializes digital art, it trivializes traditional art. And they think that it shouldn't be able to do that. Why draw traditionally when you can draw digitally faster and easier? These are just misconceptions, and in the reality, it's actually quite the opposite. It takes just as much time to draw digitally than it does to draw traditionally. It also takes just as much skill. They may have tools from Photoshop and Illustrator, but that doesn't mean it makes it easier to draw. It all depends on their skills. One of the main benefits of digital art is that it is good for all artists, from amateurs to experts. They can all use the same software or different softwares on their computer, and they can create something amazing. Whenever I began my research, I began to realize that the definition of art can vary between each person, and the definition can be very broad. Each person in this room might have a different definition of digital art or art in general. So in the fundamentals of things, everything is art. From tables to chairs to paintings created by famous artists. They're all the same thing in this perspective. So this is why this subject is very controversial. Who is to say what art is and what art isn't? The truth is, no one can say. Whenever I continued my research, I began to realize that my subject I was getting myself into was a lot more serious than I thought. I learned more than I bargained for. But in the end, I loved the information that I received. So let me get back to things. Does that mean digital art is art? Well, by the basics of things, yes. But in reality, it all depends on the person. My opinions, however, I believe that digital art should be an appreciated art form. What I chose for my product to correlate with my research and to support my beliefs in my research is I wrote and illustrated a 28-page graphic novel. Another reason why I chose a graphic novel is because I grew up around art and I appreciate any forms of art, no matter what it may be, and I love observing the small details of it. My 28-page graphic novel is about, it is called Scavenger's Tales, A Search for Power Cells. It is about two brothers who look for power to power a mechanism that defends their home. Whenever I began to create my product, I had a schedule in mind. Every weekday at 7 o'clock, I drew the rough draft in a sketchbook and tried to draw at least one page each day. Then, whenever I went to school, if I had any free time, I decided to draw in that time, but if I didn't, that was okay, because I went to VOTEC in West Plains. Commercial and Advertising Arts was my class, and I got permission from my teacher, Mr. Heidi, to redraw my sketchbook and make it digital. Whenever I completed my comic, I felt very proud of myself, and I loved showing my family and friends and the reactions. Sometimes the feedback is a little bit better than what I created, in my opinion. It wasn't smooth sailing, though. I had two main problems that I faced and experienced during the process of my creations. One of these hardships, was that the due date intimidated me greatly. Usually, it should encourage someone to finish their product, but ironically, I was discouraged and intimidated. Sometimes I didn't feel like drawing, and the due date really stressed me out. Another hardship I faced, something I couldn't control, was the weather. Whenever the weather comes around and school is out for everyone, usually the students are happy. Me, on the other hand, I was a little stressed out because in VOTEC, I wouldn't be able to go to VOTEC and I couldn't finish my product. So I was set back for almost a whole week. So it all comes back to the fact that humans are always wired to create something. They might not even realize if they're creating something or not, but they always create. It may be from architecture to actual art. My product supported my thesis and my research, and they wove together, and I feel proud at the fact that I did these things. So what about everyone in this room? Have you created something bigger than life or bigger than what you would expect, and have you showed your family and friends? Have you ever felt proud of what you created, and have your people been very proud of what you created? Thank you. Any questions?
Did you get your book printed at the VOTEC, or did you send it somewhere?
I had the materials in VOTEC to print out my things, and I'm very grateful for my teacher, Mr. Heidi. Any more questions?
What program did you use, or the tablet do you use to create on?
I sketched out on a normal sketchbook, and then to finalize it, I used a Wacom. I don't know the exact model, but it was Wacom brand, and it was a very large computer screen. It was a monitor and a computer at the same time. And I used a stylus to draw on the screen, basically.
Do you have a picture of that you could back up to? Is that one of your pictures?
I think
There's a picture in here.
yeah, in the back of each of these comics, I show the process of me creating comics.
Was that a new skill that you learned because you never used that before?
Oh, yes. Thankfully, I learned Photoshop and Illustrator in Botech by Mr. Heidi, and I was very proud, or I was very thankful for that.
How did you come up with the idea for what your story would be?
Whenever it all starts out with creating a character, I usually love sketching whenever I'm bored or something like that. And whenever I like really love what I made, like a character, I would automatically start creating a story behind them. And this one is the one that stood out most to me. And I actually started this comic the summer before I became a senior. Any more questions? Okay. So I guess I'm finished. It's here. So
I don't know
what to do next. I wasn't prepared for this.
No, it is.
I read it downstairs, so if you have somebody else to give that to, that's fine.
I have 2 extra.
Okay, all right.
Here, okay.
I hope
Thank you.
whenever you decide to read my comic, I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Very good job.
Thank you.
And not this. Did you do it too? My fingers are too big.
When is the screen? It's a touch screen, I can scroll. I'm worried about anything I sit down to, I want to move it. That screen doesn't move. What's wrong with it?
Are you the one that worked at the pool list? Are you working at the Oh, I have a lanyard for you
my.
that
Seriously?
I'm
Again?
gonna force you to wear.
It says.
And I'm gonna tell you have to wear it.
You don't
But
have to-
why would you whistle?
No.
To wear? Oh,
Emily.
I will.
Emily.
Micah,
You don't have
stop
to.
it.
You don't
I
have
will.
to.
He's not in charge.
You don't have to.
I knew it was his lanyard. You need one
Sam was wearing his.
They're brave.
Sam, yeah, I got some Steve.
You received one because I gave him like a million. And I'm like, here, take all of these and give them to your friend. Put up on the name tag. And he goes, okay.
We got Steve gave a bunch to.
Did he give you one?
No.
Micah?
I walked around, I think Mike's in my car.
Okay, I just want you, I'm not your mother, I'm just gonna lecture you like I am for just a minute. We want him to win.
Yes, I'm aware of this.
We're on the same
So
team.
you're not, so you don't have to do anything at work.
No, that's not true.
So you don't have to do as much at work.
That's not true.
So he's
So he
happier.
is a happy man.
So you guys don't get yelled at work.
So.
I think they can take them, so they're not sure about him.
He's not much older than me. Like a year. I can take it. It'll be fine. However, we want to have a happy man in our office. And so I'm gonna buy everybody that looks like a cool whistle, and I'm gonna give them a lanyard, and they're gonna wear it. And if they don't have the one when I go up there, we're gonna get them. Because one part for me, and I get to do that. Perfect.
Yeah, but Lachlan does mine around town a lot. I don't.
And it's even better now that he doesn't have blue hair.
I don't have a lanyard. I just have my keys.
Are you looking at the pool?
Hopefully. I just have my keys.
Did you
Yes.
both have him?
No, but I might now. I'm gonna call that back. Just kidding. I don't care on this one. Conditional. He refuses to wear my lanyard. He cannot work.
Yeah, my lanyard's still in my car. It's in my back seat with my track spikes.
What are you
Mine is there, Brad.
Put it on. Grown up. I don't have to. You don't have a choice. Is she out there?
Who are you looking for? Is this headed?
This is Wood.
Who's that?
She retired before you got here.
No, she did not. It was last year.
What's she?
That gifted thing.
Oh.
I'm in college prep, Mom.
You would.
Alex isn't even in that.
That's okay.
I'm in college prep, though.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, I really liked writing that essay, though. That essay was easy to write. The one I was writing last night.
It was more when I was. You enjoyed writing?
I really liked writing that essay. Once I read how I'm supposed to do it, it was easy.
Oh, once you read the instructions, it got easier?
No, when I looked at WikiHow on how to write one, then I understood. When Mr. Kumar gives instructions, he doesn't give instructions at all, ever,
My
period.
mom's was here?
Ask literally anyone who's a junior, Mr. Kumar does not give instructions.
I talked to Mrs. Miller. I love to be a counselor, so I have some advice.
Talk to Miss Lee.
You're prepared for whatever?
I know.
There you go.
I just
I like this. Yeah. I'll put on the Walmart in the little piece. I don't know that I ever said that.
Not in the kids section, but I do.
But he's still in transition here. No. This is the head of yesterday or the hair that I was down with
Well, I watched some a couple summers ago on children's place. Where
I'm a little bit weak, but oh, yeah. Gosh, he doesn't look sharp. I like sharp.
Thank you.
I'm scared of her to death.
She's gonna land it.
Oh, hello, he does. She does.
Yeah.
That's weird. What kind of land is it?
It's just a steep regret.
Dawson, did you need anything special back here at the computer?
No, I'm good.
Sounds good.
They're slower than I remember. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that they can just.
Can do what? I don't know.
See what?
Is that okay with you?
You want me to turn them off?
Will the front lights just start?
I think your screen will show up better.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Perfect.
We'll give you another score for that since you figured out.
Dark.
That's an extra point.
oh, your last name is Bunch. Your last name is Bunch?
Yeah.
We're probably related, because any Bunches and Collinses from this area, I'm related. Are you related to Ryan Bunch?
Yep.
Then we're related.
Can you make it quick on the?
Are you ready? I was just watching the clock.
We're waiting.
So.
Because you got 2 minutes.
Everybody here that's supposed to be here.
Another minute or two to get nervous?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Ms. Spencer told us, do not start early, so.
Are you listening to Ms. Spencer?
So I'm following orders, right? Yes. I'm perfect there, right? So
in charge of it.
So I'm gonna, I will listen to what Ms. Spencer says.
I don't
I don't want her to have to meeting with you.
every time I come in, I just leave questions for the mom. But, our feet still don't. No, I still have to tangle my feet.
Are all,
Jackie's and Chelsea.
are all your judges here? Are all the judges here for?
I
don't know for sure.
Oh.
Another reason why we brought up the with all the judges here, right?
I can give you. Oh, you're filming? You're streaming it? Oh, that's right. I could have just watched this from home.
Yeah.
But someone else cooked me supper. He has like 30. It's like how
Thank you. I'm ready.
he has like 30. I said that all the leftovers.
I think we're good to go, guys.
I'm not here.
My judge is ready.
Yes.
Okay. When I was a little kid, I always imagined myself in a race car going around the track and the torque putting me back in the car. But I never once stopped and thought how much time, effort, and money is put into this building this car. Hi, my name is Dawson Bunch, and I'm here to tell you about my project. When I was 15 years old, I started working at Wagner True Value, and that's where I met my mentor, Landon Clinton. He had asked me many times to come over, and I just decided one day to go over there, and it was probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. He's taught me a lot about cars and a lot about life in general. There are many challenges when putting a car together, and that's what I like about putting together. There are many aspects of a car. One of them is weight. Depending on the type of class you run, depends on how much your car has to weigh or what track you are at. Weight placement is another one. They're lead. They weigh about 25 pounds a piece on the back, and they have to have 2 half-inch bolts in them, be painted white, and have your name and number on them. That way, if something happens and they break off, they can tell who it is. Weight transfer, when you go around the corner, you want to go around as fast as you can. And if your weight placement is not right, then it'll throw off your weight transfer too. Another aspect is tires. Depending on the type of class you run, depends on the size of the tires you run. Grooved tires usually run in A-Mon and B-Mon, which is just another type of class. Generally, hobby stock and super stock do asphalt takeoffs is what drag cars run. But the way they do it, they groove them. And Landon has this tool that heats up and he makes little squares in the tires, as you can see right there. And tires are weird because they have to heat up and they have to stay cool at the same time. So in order to do that, we put vertical lines in them squares right there. That way they would rub together and cause friction between each other and they heat up. But we've later found out that by doing that, they were heating up too quick and causing the tire to go soft. Not only that, but grooving tires and buying tires that are already grooved do get really expensive. Stuff that's also expensive is gas. It's a higher octane that they run in them race cars. VP 110 is what they run in super stock. VP 116 is what they run in late model. And like I say, modified tires, they cost $268 a piece, and they buy them about every other week. Food, you have to buy food for your family to go up there when you race, because everyone gets hungry. Family, you gotta pay for your family and, your pit crew to get in, and that gets really expensive. Not only that, you have to pay for gas in your personal truck. And just like in anything else, there's always cheating. Traction control is probably one of the best ways that people cheat in Superstock. It's just like traction control in your car. It's anti-slip. When one tire starts to slip, the other one kicks in. You try not to get it to slip, and it's been proven that traction control does increase your time. That way you are able to run faster. Now, legit, there is a gentleman who runs it, and I've asked the tech guys down there why they do not tech him, and he says they don't tech him because they don't know where to start, and if they tech him, they have to take everyone, and it just takes too long, and they don't even know where to begin. My research has led me to build my own race car. My research was over a legit speedway car, but the way we built it was just in between measurements, just around the ballpark of legits. Because Landon has people buy these cars from him all over. So if we were to build it for legit, then he would have a harder time selling it. The front end part, I put front end parts on it, upper A-arms, lower A-arms, ball joints, spindles, brakes. Normally we don't run the brake lines, but his brother decided one day that he was going to buy this car from Landon and wanted the brake lines run. So we went ahead and put the brake lines on, but come to find out he actually is not going to drive it. Putting the body on was probably one of the most hardest things ever because it's really expensive and there's not a lot of room to screw up. So what Landon likes to do is over, as you can see over there in the corner, we measure out from the body 1 inch and fold the sheet metal over that way and underneath. That way when you run your hand underneath it, it doesn't cut you or put metal in your hand or anything else like that. Some of the challenges that I faced is time management. Landon had a race auction, and we spent a lot of time building chairs and stands and stuff like that for him. And what this race auction consists of was just old parts he had laying around, and he went and had other people actually bring parts that they wanted to sell, and had it at the fairgrounds in West Plains and auction all that stuff off. Another challenge I had was the rear end. The rear end we put into that car was taken out of another car, so not only that, but we had to cut it out and make it fit. We had to do a lot of adjusting to it, and it was very, very complicated. Now that I'm older and been around cars more, I understand how much time, effort, and money is put in to building a car. Thank you. That's my work side. Do my judges have any questions?
So now that you know how much it costs, you don't want to be a race car driver?
I'd just rather stick to building them.
Are you gonna build another one?
Maybe. It depends on Landon and whether he wants to or not.
What do you have to do to keep the tires hot and cold at the same time?
Like, okay, he bought this tire machine and we put it, it's like a car, it has the studs and everything that come out, and we take an impact and we drill it up there, and they puncture little holes, like it just points, little points, and we run it over the tire, and it heats up. That way it enhances grip and traction. That way when you go around the corners, you get more grip, and you don't slide or anything like that. And when you slide, you waste more tires and you run your tires faster. Yes, they are. Although asphalt takeoffs are only about $25, but the tool for them is what gets really expensive for it.
So when the tires get soft, is that when they slide?
When they get soft or they get too hard. It's really hard to drive. Yeah.
You don't plan to drive this car?
He actually sold this car today. Not this car. I want to drive his other one, but that's still in the process of him deciding.
Maybe, maybe not. Did you enjoy it?
Yes. I learned a lot of new things. I wasn't really good with measurements when I began, and I am a lot better now.
How much time did you put into this?
A lot. I had on my mentor hours, I had about 56 hours put into this. Normally, he had a race car that he got before the end of the season last year at Legit Speedway, and we put it together in 2 weeks. And we probably had more than 52 hours in it.
In reading your
your research paper for your, whatever it says here.
No, that's what it is.
Okay,
That thing.
this thing right here. Landon has actually driven since he was about 15
Yes.
at different dirt tracks around the area. So as your mentor, which still stresses me, just because I know Landon,
Having him in charge.
was that, did he try to show you the pros and the cons of doing that on your own
Yes.
with the?
You did. There's a sway bar in the front that connects the steering box and everything together. And it looks like you can put it on both ways, but I quickly learned that you cannot. First time I put it on, it was upside down.
Well, and since Landon grew up doing this and his dad also, he was probably one of the best mentors you could have had to build your own race car. Because he did do this for a living out of it for a while.
He did it for a living for about 3 months.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of stories about him.
Yes, yes. So, anyway, very cool. Good job.
Is that it? Yeah, thank you.
I was gonna say, do you want to start your engines?
Yeah.
Should have. Go back and Alright, I got 7.
I'm gonna.
Where's my top of that? It's really fast though.
Do you remember like at the bottom, like?
Chase. Oh, so now where do you go next?
108.
Oh, no, I'm done. I don't it's in this place.
I go to 108 at 7.
And this is.
All day. Where is he?
Yeah.
I'll bring my leg back to your mom.
Sounds good.
I'll get you one too.
I have one, it's in my car.
I'll get you a few more.
Okay.
You can wear them around your
Gotcha,
neck all
gotcha,
over. You guys are in here?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
The tie is gone, then if I can get.
Oh, I'm sure. He's much more comfortable than wasted money.
Okay, where is Grimes at?
Okay, let me explain, I don't
Not
have it
wasted
there.
money when it's part of the assignment.
Are you going to do?
Yes.
Okay, I have to go
Almost an hour
back
break.
up this hallway. Instead of going towards the high school, go the other way. And I think there's like decoration, you'll go up a hallway and then just up there.
We've
come to watch. Because I want to watch.
Move out of the way. It's on. Yeah, they said turn it on the bus, keep it on.
Crazy.
Ooh,
I'm like, I know we have been around the same person. We've been somewhere together. And it's like, I can't remember where. It's driving me crazy. But I can't get on Facebook in here. It was nice to see you.
So be there. You're gonna be in someone's way nonetheless.
Yeah, and they can move it actually. Okay. They can just pick it up.
I would cook it in here a little bit, Joe.
I think it's nice. Or Chloe. Yeah, I just want food. Or I just want cookies. Almost. I'll be okay. You just need to bring sugar. But yeah, second time for. Huh? Anesthesia. This is cool. Happy, classy, and have tassels.
How are you?
I had her in the house for 2 classes. This is one for.
The little one?
Yeah.
It's the one.
Oh, I got you. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like the one that goes over top. Yeah. And then there's one for princess, and then for.
Oh, yeah.
Or that's where you want the ones for teaching.
No, they're about that. So,
Gosh.
and then the wooden tea is from
This would be great. Yeah. Something red. What's the next one? We have 10 minutes. No, we don't. We have 4 minutes. Caitlin better. I think you bring it back. Anastasia, did you already pass out those things for the next one?
Okay.
Go where?
It's in those places like the school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really good.
Are you ready? We all need to go. I can drive.
I'm very good at skating.
We all need to go. Okay, not this next, not this next. Thank you.
Oh, I had a rookie game Saturday. Oh, I just forgot.
So, I'll take this for you.
Next weekend. I don't know.
Can we see what it looks like?
Yeah. I think you got it earlier that helped a lot. Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh. You're fine. I got you. That's all right.
Are you ready?
Okay, that's fine. Are my judges ready? August 28th, 1963, the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. And in that speech, Dr. King said the words, "I say to you today, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood." Dr. King gave his speech on the streets of Washington, where he called out for civil rights and economic rights. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a phenomenal leader, bringing together 250,000 people. Good evening. My name is Caitlin Perkins, and I'm here this evening to speak to you on leadership. From the very beginning, I knew I wanted to host a volleyball camp. In need of a topic to go with my product, I took a moment to reflect on what I've learned from playing volleyball over the years. I have learned communication skills, good sportsmanship. I've learned how to motivate people and how to treat people. And most importantly, I've learned how to push people further than their own expectations, even when they did not want to be pushed. It was in that moment I realized through volleyball I have learned to be a leader. Leadership is big on the discussion board in my home, with both mom and dad holding manager positions, and leadership is a topic I am passionate about. The definition of leadership is stated as a procedure. It involves influencing, it takes place in a group environment, and leadership necessitates goal attainment. Even though all of us may not be destined to lead 250,000 people in a march to end racism, any of us can lead a group, team, or organization. No one should ever say, "I am not a leader." Just because a person does not give speeches, lead a franchise, or sit in that glorious corner office, he or she are in fact a leader or on their way to being one. Being a friend, or a neighbor, specifically a good one, makes a leader. Being a parent unquestionably develops leadership skills. Coaches and teachers are constantly leading their students and athletes. Even having siblings is an environment where leadership skills are likely to unveil. In order to take a set of individuals, influence them, and reach a common goal, a set of skills is required. The main components that contributed to Dr. King's success was he was wise, intelligent, and creative. Wisdom is taking one's intelligence, creativity, and experience he or she possesses and using it towards the common good. Intelligence is evaluating the standard of your ideas, and creativity is used to generate the ideas that others will follow. Dr. King was wise and intelligent because he did not leave his listeners mired in anger, fueled by the stories he told of inequality and injustice. Instead, he moved them to a positive emotional state by sharing his vision of equality. And Dr. King was also creative. He was creative in the sense he used the terminology creative tension in many of his speeches, which simply means in order to change, in order to have fairness, things must be shaken up. Being a leader. Successful leaders have to have a strong sense of character and good habits. People have the ability to generate or eradicate opportunities that come their way, and each of us are capable of doing that. Business leadership. For a company to exhibit any kind of success, there must be leadership. Team leadership.
Recreation and athletic departments are important places for students and athletes to exhibit leadership skills. Coaches are constantly leading their athletes to perform at their highest level. There are positive results for coaches who place their athletes with other athletes who have different strength areas than their own. For me, volleyball has made a huge impact in my life, and it was something I knew I could effectively teach and coach. For me, volleyball has led me to where I am today. And knowing that I have a passion for working with children and an understanding that for a child that exhibits leadership skills at a young age, it'll better our future generations. And this led me to create my product. Leadership is very important in our youth because they will better our generations. For me, I want students and athletes to have the opportunity to learn volleyball at a low cost because for me, volleyball has gotten me to where I am today. Athletic departments are very important. That is where we push each other and we push our teammates. For my product, I held an elementary and middle school volleyball camp. My product took course over the course of 2 Saturdays. My intention of my camp was to host a volleyball camp at a very low cost so students had the opportunity to attend. And my goal for camp was to develop proper technique while learning leadership skills. My first Saturday was dedicated to my elementary athletes. This is my first and second grade group. I had my first and second graders for 4 hours. First and second graders are typically 6 to 8 years old. This is not very old and their attention spans are very short. Knowing this in advance, I incorporated lots of games to my schedule. That way we could keep camp moving and they did not get bored listening to me demonstrate drills and talking. My second session that day was my third and fourth graders. This was a group of 12 girls. This was a very enjoyable group for me because this is the group I got to jump in and play games with, and they are very coachable. These are my fifth and sixth graders. This was the following Saturday for my elementary camp. My fifth and sixth graders was my largest group with 16 girls. The second session of the following Saturday was my seventh and eighth graders. This is a group of 9 girls, and this is the group I was most excited for because I understood the skills they gained throughout my camp would transfer into playing at the high school level. I'm very thankful my senior project did not experience any major problems. The biggest challenge I faced was with my t-shirts. I set a deadline for the children to have their registration form in. That way I'd give my t-shirt guy plenty of time to have all 54 shirts finished for me. Even with a month's notice, they still came in the day of elementary camp. So while I was coaching my first and second grade group, my mother ran to West Plains for me and picked them up. In a hurry to get my t-shirts to the children, we never stopped and counted what we had. Turned out not all my t-shirts were there and many were the wrong size. So what we did was we put the children in oversized t-shirts. That way we could take group pictures. And when all my t-shirts were finally in, I hand-delivered them to the elementary and middle school classrooms myself. Although this is a very frustrating experience for me, I learned to take the good with the bad, to think on my feet and figure out a solution. In conclusion, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a successful leader of the African American civil rights advancement in the United States. He was powerful and he used his power to influence the believers. Dr. King is no longer with us today, but his legacy will forever live on. I ask that each of you take a moment and think, where can I make a difference? Whether this be in your own classroom, in your workplace, on the court, or the field, think where you can make a difference. Next, visualize your success. See yourself getting there. And finally, take action. Each of us are capable of making a difference. Successful leaders' best quality is the fact that they can pull out the hidden talents in those they lead and push them to achieve greatness. If you think you can do a thing or think you cannot do a thing, you are in fact correct. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
Would you hold another volleyball camp in the near future?
In the near future, yes. So I will be playing volleyball in college, and we will be hosting a camp through Crowley's Ridge in June, on a Saturday in June, and I'll be one of the players that was picked to coach. So that's the nearest one. I do look to coach and teach in the future, and I think it's very important to have camps for younger kids. That way they start developing skills before they reach high school. And so I do look to coach camps in the future, and my nearest one will be in June.
Is there anything you would do different about your camp?
I would not have first and second graders for 4 hours, in all honesty. So each of my sessions was 4 hours, and like I said in my speech, first and second graders have very short attention spans, and my group was a bunch of like best friends, so keeping them on task was a challenge. But overall, I was very thrilled with the results I seen. Many of my children were thrown in some frustrating games, and this was so they would learn the purpose of leadership. That way they would learn from each other and kind of take charge of the drills. I was kind of thrilled to see they were frustrated and weren't sure what to do the first time we did some of our games. That way the second time they're like, okay, I'm gonna take over and here's how we do it. And that's where they really showed communication skills. And so I would probably have about a 2-hour session with each group because of how I split them up, because it was definitely difficult to keep the younger groups on task.
What do you feel like was the most important thing you learned from doing your camps?
The most important thing I've learned is probably treating people differently. And when I say that, I say treat people different but have the same respect overall, because what works for one person doesn't work for another. So if I tell one kid, hey, keep your head up, you're gonna do fine, they're gonna go for it. Others, it's gonna take a little more. And others, you can be like, hey, don't do that. And they're like, okay, and they bounce off. And others, it's like, oh, you just got on to me, don't talk to me anymore. So I think treating people differently is what I took away the most, but still having the same goal for everybody and respecting everyone the same. Any other questions? Thank you. No, it's okay. All this, I don't know what I'm doing.
Think you're doing? Good job. Enjoyed it. Good job, Mark.
How are you? I did all the work.
Good.
Yeah.
See, I think that was coming.
There's a clip somewhere.
You sitting over here.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So is my top piece of it?
Yes, exactly. So it's one of those either 639 or 659. Okay, all right, thank you. You did wonderful. You're very good.
I appreciate that. You did good. Spencer did great. I'll ran out since we got over here. You told him he said he did great.
I will.
Yeah, absolutely.
This project is awesome.
It wasn't working right in there, it wasn't dark enough, and I think his mirror wasn't.
That's pretty cool for me, so I'm so proud of him, scholarship.
Oh, yeah, so good. I'm proud too, because it helps us out. Yeah, it was good. We just got, I realized that one throughout everything. It's like we need it to. Yeah. I have to. I still need to make it that. Okay. It's gonna take. Jay's gonna be with you. You're gonna miss your mom. We'll go with you. Okay. I'm like, Jay's leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Tuesday, we are against the year. Yeah. Yeah. I had a pretty bad, like, I can see that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, even better.
Yeah.
We need one more judge, right? Or we all on?
There he is. Hi.
Let's wait a couple more minutes, all right?
Okay, sit in the back. Thank you.
We'll leave the back one on, please, that'd be great. Back one on, you want the front one? Yeah.
There you go.
That's better.
That's
Perhaps I know you got that. Are our judges okay?
Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Every successful individual knows that his or her success depends on a community of persons working together. Paul Ryan. Hello, my name is Michael Coons, and I would like to talk to you about dance, the research behind it, and my contribution to it as a whole. I began dancing at the early age of 6 at a dance class here in Willow. They taught tap, jazz, acro, ballet, ballroom, and hip hop. However, I never learned hip hop despite my interest in it. So I saw my senior project as an opportunity not only to learn, but to teach dance. Throughout my senior year, I accomplished many things. First of all, my senior project, which is within itself dance. Secondly, my research paper, which was written over the controversy of whether dance should be more heavily included in schools, in which I approve of. Finally was my senior project, which was to create a dance and perform it in February in the Spanish play. Before we concern ourselves with my product, we must first talk about the research behind it. We know that cavemen have been dancing around fires since longer than mankind can recall. They depicted it on cave walls. However, it was not until the late 1800s that dance was modernized. A woman named Loie Fuller dynamicized a dance called skirt dancing and improved upon it and made it more freeform and less formal. Following her was Isadora Duncan and the Denishon twins. Isadora Duncan and the Denishon twins traveled the world and became vastly popular, making modern dance famous. Other than its research, its benefits are also very important. First of all, the physical benefits are very obvious, that it would reduce obesity and help strengthen muscles. Dance targets muscles that no other exercise can because it works very specific and unique muscles that it's very difficult to work with any other kind of exercise. Secondly, the mental benefits. After you work out or after you exercise, it helps relieve stress, which will in turn help your memory. And finally, the social benefits. Whenever you dance in a troupe, you meet multiple times a week or per month, and you make friends that could last a lifetime. I began the choreography in very early October. I had to first decide the songs. I chose I, Robot and Guillotine by Jean Bellion, and then Believer by Imagine Dragons. Then I had to learn to choreograph. Like I said, I had taken dance classes. However, I had never learned how to teach dance, so this was new and difficult for me. Then I had to plan the steps and work on how to actually move throughout the dance. There was a lot of problems with this as I had never taught dance before, so there was a lot of hiccups along the way. We started practicing in late October of 2017, and we went all the way until February. We originally had about 15, 16 members. However, as time went on, the numbers dwindled, and I ended up with about 8 people. The dance turned out much more different than I thought it would. Whenever I started with so many members and I started in a different space than I ended up dancing in, the moves altered a lot, especially whenever not everyone was there for every practice. On the night of the play, we had a full house and it was very stressful, and there was a lot of unexpected events, such as during the second night, there was a chair left on stage and we had to find some way to dance around it and remove it without it looking terribly awkward. Overall, the turnout was amazing. We got good feedback for both nights. My stretch was mostly cooperation with my dancers' schedule. Seeing that many of them had jobs or sports, most of them didn't come to practice at the same time. So I ended up having 3 practices a week at some point in time. And so some of the dancers weren't there for some days and they were there for other days. So they would miss the lesson before and not know what was going on the next time. And it became very difficult to teach. We spent 72 hours overall in the auditorium and the Bears Den. That's not including all the hours that we practice on our own time at home. And then the play. I was an actor in the play. And so I had to divide my time in between dancing and memorizing my lines and where to be on the stage for the actual play. In reference to Paul Ryan, I know that if our community gets together, we can be stronger and provide many beneficial things to our environment. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
Did you have a mentor that helped you with the choreography, or did you do it all on your own?
Yes, Miss Beck helped me with my choreography, seeing that she had performed the dance for many previous Spanish plays. Yes.
I'm not a judge, but I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have a clip of your dance?
We do, but whenever I went to it right here, it did not play. This is just the first minute of the dance.
What kind of feedback did you get from the audiences for the 2 nights? Did they?
I only heard good things from my audience. I had for several days afterward people coming up and telling me that people tried doing the robot dance, which wasn't in the video, for several times, and then they listened to the song and they tried to copy it.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, okay, so, just a question. Did you say whether your dancers had any dance experience?
The majority of my dancers didn't have a whole lot of dance experience. However, 1 or 2 of them did. I know that Maria Sole took a lot of ballet before she started dancing with us. Thank you.
Would you do this again?
Yes, I would do it again and again, and I intend to do dance after high school.
Do you like the choreography part though? Would you do the teaching part?
Definitely. I absolutely loved it. And after high school, I'm going to pursue a major in business. However, I believe I'm going to minor in choreography.
And open a business in a dance studio then, right?
I would love to, yes.
Well, I know are you going to school in West Plains or?
I'm probably going to be doing my schooling in Springfield.
Okay. Well, do you think maybe like a part-time job somewhere doing teaching or?
Whenever I go to Springfield, from my job shadow, I had a possible job opening in the Little Theater because I did my job shadow there. Okay. So I may be able to help some of the kids there with some of their plays, learning to choreograph that and then get better as I go.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I thought maybe American Buddy is so late, so, okay, that's fine, they're good. That was really okay, that's not yours.
Yes, it is. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's all right.
Okay, as soon as I'm breaking
Oh, good.
how long are the presentations? You did a very good job.
It was, I mean, I've
Are you gonna leave
had
or you
people
should?
try and choreograph dances before. I've never had.
Okay, at
such a
7:40.
fancy
Awesome, very good.
Michael who?
See ya.
Oh, gotcha.
That is here. 7:20.
Okay. So you just run an hour. Yeah.
No crime.
It's in the grind.
Oh,
The
sorry.
cafeteria.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's
Sorry,
pretty
Jonah.
confusing. Yeah, it's much nicer this year.
No, it's like right there.
I haven't even been yet. I have to judge. I love watching. Okay, that's fine. I just.
I know.
I'm in here all the
Do you need a ride after this back to wherever you go?
Yeah.
You do?
Let's give you one.
Have you not? I need to take you somewhere afterwards. No problem.
But like not when I can just pick the sandwich.
Okay, gotcha.
How many Michaels there are in this school?
There's like 5. You're looking for Michael Pratzinko, yeah?
No, I already saw Michael.
Then what are you looking for?
I'm just looking for what is next in every single other room.
No, I don't think they either.
So you're looking for times at 6.
And,
I know.
You're so lucky you don't have this next week.
in front of the, I know.
No, I'm not so lucky. In Italy, like, there is an exam
Yeah,
for the seniors,
yeah, same finals. Yeah.
but it's like after school, like the school finished, after you like have a month, and you have months, 30 days, month, where you have to prepare. You don't have these things. You have to prepare. There is a test,
Yeah.
free write test,
Written tests.
yeah, one of Italian, one of math or physics.
Math or physics.
Yeah,
You don't know which
you
one it
don't
is.
know which one it is, and the third writing is 4 subjects
What
of
subject?
your normally 10 subjects, because we normally do 10 subjects. Wait, and we have to do 4 subjects. We don't know what subjects are theirs, and they can ask everything of all the 5 years of high school. And after it's not finished. After this, you have an oral test, oral exam
Yeah.
about all your 10 subjects and about all the programs of your high school.
Sounds fun.
Sure. So for me, it's hard. It's hard.
I'm good, how are you? Everything that's said in here will be.
Anyways. And like, so for me,
The presentation for those deals.
yeah, so much easier. Wait, I need
Okay, it's recorded.
No, I probably not. No, I'm fine.
Watch your words.
But I don't think they text them. No. I haven't. For reasons that we get.
I think cookies go 11.
You go, Shelley.
No, I'm supposed to be there, but that's
Just because I'm good. That's actually one of my car. I lost it.
Really?
How are you? Good to see you.
No, this is this year. Oh, yeah, it's my last time. Yes, yeah. He's really done. It's such an accomplishment. It is really.
She's standing right here.
Distracted by the wax. Were they in the wrong one? Oh. What were they trying to watch?
Yeah, so you have to use it. Yeah, just remember, right? Yeah. What? I don't know. Anyway, it's just one of those. So it's just one of those.
What's up there, Jimmy? Good, sir. Good. What about you? Doing good. You ready to prepare for next year? I guess so.
So I'll be watching some again later.
Great, I think we're gonna edit it, but where it doesn't have MC in it.
Fine. Maybe they can edit that one.
Yeah.
That's me. How long do you have to have that thing?
Feel better, man. You guys
You get rid of the crutches every time, so when I was in high school, I'm left-handed, so. Yeah, that's- I never thought I should think of it. Shame on you. You know, I thought.
Yeah, I'm from Southwest. You can come put your stuff in your.
Better watch your.
Yeah, it's being recorded. Oh, she's chill. Okay. Just come back before 8:20. All right. No problem. Got it.
It's my dad. Because I'm gonna say always and that's why you me. Because I'm gonna do and my coordinator of the trainer and another coordinator. So at the Branson and spend the week there. So.
Just make sure you come back before 8:20. I'll do that. I was gonna say that's okay.
Is there anything you need me to do back at the computer for you, or just click present and you'll be good to go? Or there was one video I had to click play on it, so anyway, so. All right. Well, to get started, I used to go by this clock usually, so I'll just give everybody a couple more minutes. Okay, is that fine? And then, see if anybody else wants to come in and watch it, right? Hey guys, everybody in the room, just keep in mind that we are live streaming on YouTube. So what is said in the room is heard far and wide. So just be aware, okay? And yeah, time just counts.
Listen, it's entirely up to you, but some of them have been turning off the front lights.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, then I'm gonna click present and.
Are my judges ready? Paul McAllister once said, college coaches measure success in national titles, high school coaches measure success in championships, and youth sports coach measures success in SPILES. My name is Weston Wilbanks, and I'm here to talk to you about youth sports. Starting now. In 1929, Pop Warner football was introduced for kids all across the United States. This is the premier football league for kids ages 8 to 15. In 1939, the Little League World Series was introduced for children under the age of 13. Where does progress to? The Little League World Series, on average, each game averages 2.5 million viewers per year. Financial. $76 million is what ESPN pays the Little League World Series to broadcast the 2-week tournament in every 8-year increment. $2,000 is what the average travel ball family spends of their disposable income on their children to play youth sports. This includes club team fees, equipment, hotel rooms, and money that they spend on food. Are your children at risk? 21% of all brain injuries to children under the age of 13 are caused because of sports. This will include lacerations across the face and many sorts of concussions and contusions. 28% of all children will experience an injury in their respective sport sometime between the grades of 3rd to 12th grade. Health benefits. 18% of all children in the United States are considered obese or overweight. 90% of children who participate in sports from the grade 3rd through 12th will keep a healthy lifestyle after school, after they graduate, and they will continue to be healthy, and they will not be considered obese in their lifetime. Health benefits. More health benefits include you have increased cardiovascular health, which means you can exercise for a longer period of time, and you have a lower risk of obesity. And with obesity, this includes diseases like diabetes and other debilitating diseases, which cause you to lose parts of your body due to your obesity. Social benefits. Children who are involved in sports are often more socially active than other children because they've interacted with children more, and they also tend to develop more personal relationships earlier on in their life. This includes friendships, and they tend to feel stronger bonds with students, and they also have a larger social threshold, which means they're often far more advanced than other children in their stages at that stage of early youth sports in their life. Why I chose this product? I chose this product because sports are a major part of my life, and all throughout school I've had many coaches, and I know what kind of type of coaches helped me, and I know what type of coaches I didn't really appreciate as a child. And I also know that most children actually like to play the amount, and in 5th and 6th grade, which is what I coach, many children would rather play on a losing team than win with a team that they didn't get to play very much or they felt like they were not needed. My main idea was to improve the physical health of every child on the team. I wanted to improve the physical health because I wanted to let these children know that a healthy lifestyle is good, and that is what is needed all across the United States. And I also wanted to improve their social health. I could tell that some of the relationships from the children were strained, and that I also had a couple kids with learning disabilities, and I felt like these kids thought they were outsiders, so we would do social bonding exercises every day at practice. I also wanted to develop a love for the game for all of the children. I wanted the children to develop a love and desire to play the sport of basketball. It also taught them life and basketball skills. I did this so the children would continue to play the game, because at that age you never can really tell how good a child is or isn't going to be. And I wanted the children all to develop a love and a passion that they just wanted to continue playing the game. My project. For my project, I coached the 5th and 6th grade YMCA basketball team for here in Willow Springs. We had a total of 6 games, and I had 9 players on the team, and we frequently held practices 2 times a week at the old gym. Also included in my product was I had an awards banquet for all of the children on my basketball team. We had food for them and all of their families, and each child received a basketball and an award for something that they were best at in their own retrospect. Each child got an award from offensive MVP to like best team player and most assists per game. Technology. For my technology, I used an iPad to record the stats that every child on the team did. I would include points, assists, and many other things because children like to know how good they're doing and what they need to improve on. They also like to know if they lead the team in some stats. My challenges. Some of my challenges were coaching because I had never coached a team like this before. I had never been in charge of 9 players who looked up to me this much before. And also didn't want to step on any of the players' toes, like make them feel like they were not needed or appreciated on the team. And the players, like I didn't know how some of the players would react to criticism or like not being on the floor in a close game or a big situation. I didn't want to make any kid lose a desire to play basketball. And so another one was practices because I had to plan all the practices at one meeting in October, and I had to plan those all through March because we had a couple snow delays and a couple of our games got canceled. This was a big deal because I had to plan it because you can't see the future that far ahead. So I had to really see how far ahead I couldn't really see how far ahead and like what events I was planning through. And another one was the parents. I didn't want to make any of the parents upset or not feel like their child was needed or not let the parents feel like their child didn't receive the playing time that he needed. Another one was the scheduling because during that period in my life, I pretty much lost all of my social life because we were having two-hour practices a week, and every Saturday we had games at anywhere from 9 in the morning to 11. Do my judges have any questions?
Is coaching something that you can see yourself doing in the future?
That's what I ended up wanting to do after this.
Well, as a coach that shared the court with you a few nights, you did a good job with those kids.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you find it difficult? Did you at any point need to give criticism to any of your kids, or?
Yeah, some children had challenges that kept like repeating themselves around, and like the 5th and 6th grade age group, they didn't really they wouldn't understand your directions the first time around, so you kind of had to keep helping with them. And as frustrating as that get, you had to just keep your head and not yell at them because they're that age. Yeah.
Did you have disciplinary parents?
No, I didn't. No, they were all. I let every kid play the same, so they were all pretty satisfied with that. Thank you, guys.
It's the last thing on our sheet.
That's okay.
Sorry, I should have told you that.
Okay. And congratulations on your baseball thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
So knowledge is key.
Okay, so that is correct?
Yeah, the last 3 are correct.
Okay, so that's the only one that was wrong?
Yep.
Okay, we got it. Oh, I see. They had a break in there for me. I didn't see that there was a time break. Okay, that's it.
You didn't take your break?
I didn't take my break. Oh, well.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you want to give me some of your drink?
What you thought? Oh, wait, yes, I am. I'm sorry. I lied to you. I just flat out lied to you. I just watched things. Bless you.
Yeah, sorry, it's because children are sorted from girasol. No, girasol is like Transam.
Hey guys, while we're waiting, just remember that we are live streaming. So whatever is said during the presentation is said far and wide. So.
They can see me, right?
Yeah.
They can smell.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good. Be careful with them with that lights off.
No, please.
Okay, so you can see your presentation better.
Megan, are you ready?
Are my judges ready? According to the AIDS Project of the Ozarks in Springfield, Missouri, 1 in 4 people have a sexually transmitted infection and don't know it. Hi, I'm Megan Murphy, and I believe that children should be informed of sexually transmitted infections due to the fact that it causes severe and irreversible damage to the human body. I chose this topic due to the fact that a few years ago I had the devastating news that my great uncle had passed away due to complications of AIDS. I did not realize that an STI could hit so close to home for me, but in reality it does for many people every year. I also chose this due to the fact that I wanted to spread the awareness of the growing epidemic that is becoming of it. I decided to do my research on the most common sexually transmitted infections there are to help spread the awareness of them. My first one was chlamydia due to the fact that it's the most common. It's also known as the silent disease due to the fact that it has no symptoms, and if there are symptoms, they're usually a common cold. Symptoms of a common cold. There are anywhere between 4 to 8 million new cases a year. The second one I chose is gonorrhea. I chose gonorrhea because it's the second most common and due to the fact that of the way it grows. It grows in warm places like a mold. So it grows in for example, in the cervix of a woman, and there would be a lot of bacteria before symptoms would show up. The last two that I talked to you about are bacterial sexually transmitted infections, which means that they are curable. The last three that I'm talking to you guys about tonight are viral, which means they are not curable and they stay in the human body for the rest of your life. Herpes is the most common viral infection due to the fact that it can be spread so easy. There's two different complexes. Complex 1 is a common cold sore, which can be treated and taken care of. Complex 2, on the other hand, is genital herpes, and it will always remain in the human body with or without an outbreak. The outbreaks are usually caused by stress, and they're blisters that appear, and there's pus inside, and it can be transferred from skin-to-skin contact with or without an outbreak. HPV stands for human papillomavirus. Human papillomavirus is a very rapidly mutating virus, and that's why there's over 40 different kinds. The 40 different kinds can cause cervical cancer, penile cancer, throat cancer, genital warts, or throat warts. The vaccines they have for them today are just for the ones that cause cancer, and they're recommended from ages 11 to 13. Human immunodeficiency virus and acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. HIV and AIDS, as most people know it, is the third one I chose, due to the fact of the stigma behind it. It has a large amount of stigma behind it because when it first skyrocketed in rates, it was known as the homosexual STI due to the fact that only homosexual men were getting it. But throughout the years, doctors realized that women and children were getting it also. The damage that STIs can cause to a human body is irreversible. One of the disorders that it causes is pelvic inflammatory disorder. This only occurs in women, and it's a severe infection of the female reproductive system. It creates scarring in the fallopian tubes, which creates a problem for the egg to drop from the ovary to the uterus to become fertilized, so it makes the woman become infertile. But if the woman does become fertile, it usually ends up in episcopic pregnancies due to the fact that the egg cannot pass through the scar tissue. Ectopic pregnancies are when the egg attaches to the fallopian tubes instead of the uterus. This usually ends up in miscarriages due to the fact that the fallopian tubes are not made to nourish or stretch the way the uterus is. After learning about all the different types of sexually transmitted infections, I decided to dig a little deeper into what the kids today were learning about in schools. There are two different types of sex education. There's abstinence only, which is just based on the anatomy of the sex organs, but comprehensive sex education is where it goes over the anatomy, birth control, prevention, protection, and assistance when needed. For my product, I really didn't know what to do at first, but then I decided that with the help of my mentor, Miss Tilly, I decided to do a health lesson with the second semester health classes. It expanded over 3 blocks. The first day I had the AIDS Project of the Ozarks. This is Teresa, and then this shoulder over here is Doug. I didn't get a picture of him because he's camera shy. They talked to them from a professional standpoint to where, because it's such a sensitive topic, so they had a professional aspect on it. And then the second day I had my presentation was just based on statistics and common facts. And then for both of the days, I created a note packet, which is over on my trifold. For the kids to follow, it went chronological in order with each presentation. And then for the third day, I created a Kahoot game, which is an interactive review game for the kids to make sure they were ready for the test. And then those 6 papers that you see in the middle of my trifold, those are actually the tests that I created for the kids to take. I had many difficulties when it came to my senior projects, such as planning for people to show up. I've never planned for somebody to come to the school and talk to students before, so that was new. And I have anxiety, so presenting in front of people hasn't always been easy for me. And then we had a lot of snow days right when I was planning my senior project around, so I would have to call the APO people and reschedule because I could only do it on certain days due to the block scheduling. And I was actually having health issues that were causing me to be out of school for weeks at a time. With the point that I made in the beginning that 1 in 4 people have a sexually transmitted infection, doesn't it make sense that they don't know they have it? Knowledge, assistance, and protection is what the children of today's society need to help in this epidemic that past generations have started. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
So what was more difficult, speaking to a classroom full of your peers or us?
You guys. Beyond you guys. Oh, there's my works cited. Sorry. Yes?
Do the students have a lot of questions?
The students really, I covered mostly everything in my presentation, and what the AIDS Project and the Ozarks didn't cover in their presentation, I covered. So they did have questions, and I answered them appropriately. But the questions that they did have were just common questions that I was expecting.
High school students, ages from freshman through?
Sophomore, just sophomore.
Okay, just sophomore, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I created a permission slip too.
I was just getting ready to ask you that.
I created
That
a
was
permission slip too.
That was the other part of my question, if it required
Yes.
permission from
I did a permission
family.
slip just in case.
Right, that was smart, I applaud you on that. I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I have one not related to this, but
Okay.
what medical career are you interested in?
I'm actually graduating EMT school Monday.
Awesome, very good. And then on to something
I
else.
want to become a flight paramedic.
Flight paramedic, okay. I only ask because I'm a nurse, so is my mother.
Ready for VOTEC, right?
Yeah.
I actually am in the pharmacy tech in there. I'm not in the nursing. I used to be, but that's not my calling. Well, thank you guys. Seven. That's average. That's been my average. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You're fine.
I guess let's go.
Oh, I have two more.
If you want to, you can. Yeah. You just put your stuff in up on the. No, not right now. But her, she is the.
Did you need to back here?
No, I don't have any videos or anything, so. Okay.
Hey, so what's the most prevalent form of cancer in Colorado? So the paper is pulmonary. So what pulmonary is? What kind of research did you do? And it's like, all right.
More crime.
Good to see you.
Actually, you should ask him. Just to mess up.
Mackenzie, this is the downside of being early.
Yeah, I know, I have to wait. It's okay. My nerves are like slowly going away, so.
Okay, I've been making this announcement at the beginning of each session. Just remember we are live streaming, so the words you say will continue to be said. So be careful.
Yes, which ones are they?
It's the furthest one.
The furthest door.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
We'll get the door shut and we'll be good to go, all right?
Okay. Are my judges ready? This is Olivia, a sweet, loving, outgoing 4-year-old. Cystic fibrosis is found in more than 1 in approximately 3,500 Caucasians. And my sweet niece has just turned into a statistic. Good evening. My name is Mackenzie Eggert. Tonight I'm going to be talking to you about genetic testing and how it has improved the lives of many throughout the years and continues to assist in the diagnosis of children who might have a genetic disorder. When choosing a topic, I chose something close to home, and that something was my niece. My niece Olivia was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when she was 2 weeks old. Since then, she's had 1 hospital stay and is right now battling to get a feeding tube put in. She takes medicine on a daily basis and uses a vest to ensure that she stays healthy. What is genetic testing? Genetic testing is a medical test that identifies changes in genes, chromosomes, or proteins. There are many benefits to genetic testing, like being able to confirm or rule out if your child might have a genetic disorder like cystic fibrosis. The first genetic test I'm going to talk about is molecular testing. Molecular testing studies whole chromosomes or long lengths of DNA to find variations and mutations. Next is chromosomal testing. Chromosomal testing looks at short lengths of DNA, also to find variations and mutations. The last one is biochemical testing, and it looks at the activity or level of proteins. The most common genetic test that there is today is carrier testing. Carrier testing is used to determine if a child might have a genetic disorder. If the parent that is the carrier has the gene that might be passed on, they will be notified in the carrier testing. The next is prenatal testing. This is done while the child is in the womb and it looks at the fetus's genes and chromosomes to detect if they will have the gene mutation that their parent is a carrier of. Some people choose to terminate the pregnancy after they find out that that child might have a genetic disorder. If they don't choose to terminate the pregnancy, they will put their child through a newborn screening. Newborn screening is simply a heel-prick blood sample that is used to determine if that child has a disease like cystic fibrosis or Down syndrome. Not a lot of people know what cystic fibrosis is. Cystic fibrosis is a life-shortening autosomal recessive disease. It is when 2 carriers have a child, and that child has cystic fibrosis. When 2 carriers have a child, there's a 1 in 4 chance that that child will have cystic fibrosis, a 1 in 2 chance that that child will be a carrier, and a 1 in 4 chance that that child will not have anything wrong with them at all. 25 years after being discovered, there is still no cure for cystic fibrosis. Instead, there are treatments to prolong or prevent the lungs from being damaged. For my product, I chose to do something fun and unusual, and that was a dodgeball tournament. I held it on February 17th, 2018 inside Mumford Gymnasium. I started registration at 9 a.m. and began the games at 10. I sold t-shirts before I hosted the tournament, which are showed right there. And then the day of, I sold beverages and snacks to raise a little more money. Registration was basically a waiver saying that if they broke anything or broke something on them, that I wasn't responsible, the school wasn't responsible. So that was basically registration. And then I had to make brackets, like once all the teams got there, because you can't make brackets before, because you don't know how many teams are gonna show up. But I had 7 teams of 6, so my brackets got made by the team captain chose a number,
and the number that they chose was what, not like place they got to play. For advertising my event, I put flyers all around the school, and I made flyers and put them around the school. And then I posted on Facebook. I made an event page on Facebook, and I posted to it almost weekly to try to get people to sign up. I gave a $100 cash prize donation to the winning team, but the winning team donated it back to research. I raised $453 for cystic fibrosis research, and that goes to the researchers in Columbia, Missouri. I personally know them, and I have been to their meetings, and we go to their meetings every March, and I get to learn a little more about cystic fibrosis. So it was something close to me that I could ensure that went to the right place. I had many challenges, and one of them was finding people, because a lot of people don't want to spend their time on Saturday doing a fundraiser. So it took a long time to get some people, but I finally got them, and they enjoyed it. The biggest challenge I faced was probably planning the event, because I'd never planned something of this size, but it went well, and with hard work and determination, it got done. Olivia is one of the 30,000 people in the United States that live with cystic fibrosis. For you, you might breathe easy, but for Olivia, that breath that she just took, that is a gift. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
I have a question. You talked about the testing for birth, and also, if I understood correctly, you mentioned that there's not actually a cure for the disease at this time. So the benefits of testing, is it to just allow the parents to prepare for what challenges they will face, or what did you find there?
Yeah. My sister-in-law was tested. She was a first-time mom, so they asked her what kind of testing she wanted done, and she did all of it. So within all that testing, the carrier testing was done, and once they found out she was a carrier, my brother also was tested, and once they found out that they were both carriers, then they basically told my siblings that my niece would have cystic fibrosis. So they were like 99.9% sure that she would have it.
So do you have an interest in the medical field and genetic testing?
I did, but not really. I mean, thank you.
We could go to different stages where she comes. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. See you.
Well, I turned one, and then I realized it's 2 slides, not only one. So, I'm 7. Body image. Kids' body. Body image is the way you see yourself. Good evening, I'm from Cuba. I'll be talking to you about how body image affects your I know, right?
No, I got one more. I never got the definite. Where the food, where
There's a chair sitting out there with a.
Okay, you guys. Good luck going up those stairs.
So they consider that different. What do you think? See, you guys are taking pictures. It's like it is actually this. No, they told them what it is. Well, I saw the residual hectares.
You have to be like, you. I'm gonna try to find this.
How are you, Mrs. Sylvie?
I'm well, and yourself? Some of the disease. Yes.
I get the right, I think I'm good.
They were, but I think they're gone. I think she's gone. You just started with it.
No, I'm just finishing up. I've got one left.
This is my last.
Nice.
Nice.
What's going on with you? I don't know what these numbers are. I don't pay attention.
Didn't even know what you're working on.
I don't know what any of the numbers are.
It's pretty easy to do. Yeah, I can't allow them to tell that. Probably so. They probably don't.
Feel better. Thank you. See what was to do. I had to forfeit 200 before you even get there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, she's looking.
Last year,
Hey guys, remember, I'm sure this has been announced in other sessions. Remember, we are live streaming. So what you say is heard far and wide. So, after the presentation, or don't talk during this presentation.
Coach out here swearing.
There you go.
Better. Guys, what is your favorite word?
Good to go.
Just whenever. All right. Are my judges ready? The National Cancer Institute states that in 2016, an estimated 1,685,210 new cancer cases would have been diagnosed in the United States. In addition, an estimated 595,690 people would lose their battle with cancer. Good evening, and my name is Caleb Wood. When it comes to cancer treatment, there are many different possibilities and opportunities and different ways to treat cancer. Most people prefer to use conventional cancer treatments instead of the new, unproven alternative cancer treatments. Cancer. Cancer develops when certain cells in the body begin to rapidly grow out of control. There are many different types of cancer. The four most common types of cancer. Breast cancer. Breast cancer is the number one leading cause of cancer-related deaths among women. Breast cancer accounted for 500,000 out of 1.7 million new cancer cases in 2017. Breast cancer also accounted for 15% of deaths among women and 25% of deaths among all cancer victims. Lung cancer. Lung cancer is the most common type of cancer. Non-small cell lung cancer accounted for 80 to 85% of all lung cancer cases diagnosed. Leukemia, prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is the growth of cancer in the prostate. 60% of all prostate cancers are found in men over the age of 65. Leukemia. Leukemia is cancer found in the blood-forming cells and tissues of the body. Conventional cancer treatments. Chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a treatment of cancer using drugs. Chemotherapy is used to slow the growth of cancer cells or shrink the size of cancer tumors to allow other cancer treatments. Radiation. Radiation therapy is the use of internal and external rays to shrink cancer cells, kill cancer cells, and shrink tumors. Thermotherapy. Thermotherapy has gained much recognition over the most recent years due to the low and minimal side effects on the cancer victim and the more flexible treatment options. Stem cell transplants. Stem cell transplants allow for cancer victims to receive a higher dose of chemotherapy. Stem cell transplants also allow the cancer victim to grow more red blood cells and stuff like that. Alternative cancer treatments. Moving to a different location. People with lung cancer might choose to move to a dry, warm climate. And because of this, they did this because living in a hot, humid climate, it makes it harder for them to breathe, and it is harder on their lungs. Herbal medicines. Herbal medicines have not been clinically proven yet to cure cancer, but in a few unexplained cases, herbal medicines have prolonged the survival rate of cancer victims. The most, I don't remember the word for that, but the most common cases are, and the greatest results have come from Chinese herbal medicines. Yoga. Yoga is a low-impact exercise that includes breathing and meditation. It allows for cancer victims to take time out of their day, calm down, and be happy. Why did I choose cancer? I chose to research cancer because of all the people sitting in the room here tonight, I'm sure a few of us know people or know somebody who has battled cancer or has lost their life to cancer. Personally, I have family members who have battled cancer and family members who have lost their battle with cancer. For my senior project on October 14th of 2017, I hosted a benefit trap shoot in Rover, Missouri.
I chose trap shooting because I grew up trap shooting, and trap shooting is something that I enjoy, and it's fun to do. And a lot of people will show up to an event like this to help support whoever's in need. My stretch. Part of my stretch was learning how to run the plasma cutting table. For my senior project, I cut plaques out for the winners of the trap shoot. This was my stretch because in order to run the plasma cutting table in the ag department, you have to know how to work the computer that runs the system. I'm not very good with computers, and it took me quite a while to figure out how to run the whole program, and then to make sure that it was all correct whenever I cut it. And hosting an event. Hosting an event was hard for me because I knew nothing about hosting an event. I've never hosted anything or anything such as that. I normally just try to stay out of the way, just let other people do the thing. But this was hard because I've never done anything like it, and I greatly underestimated the amount of time that I had, and I didn't plan far enough ahead, because if I would have planned farther ahead, I believe I would have had greater output and more people would have shown up to my trap shoot. In conclusion, although there are many types of cancer treatment options and many unproven types of cancer treatment options, many people will choose the proven conventional cancer treatment methods over the unproven alternative cancer treatment methods. Thank you. Are there any questions?
How much money did you raise at your trap shoot?
At my trap shoot, we raised $595.
How many participants did you have?
We had 5 full teams of 5 at my trap shoot.
Do you do it again?
I would do it again. Yes, I would do it again. But if I was to do it again, I would make sure to get the word out about it sooner so that more people knew when it was going to be and what it was for.
How did you go about getting the word out? What did you?
To get the word out, I posted a thing on the Rover Gun Club. I posted my flyer. I made a flyer, and I posted the flyer around town, and I posted it on their Facebook page and on my Facebook page and on the FFA's Facebook page.
Do you participate in a trap shoot team?
Yeah, here in town we have a trap shoot team of high school kids, and there's probably 10 or 15 of us, and I am part of that trap team. Yes.
Do you compete?
I do compete. Yeah, we compete. We shoot.
Do you do well?
Well, sometimes we have good days and I have bad days. Not always a good day, but for the better part, we do decent.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything else to get it.
Yes.
How long was it? That's the longest I've ever had.
Thank you so much.
You could have. I would have looked stupid and not into it. It was 7 minutes. That's the longest
I was rolling it earlier.
I can't get it even like.
I was normally about a 5.
Like I'm trying to get tired.
Yeah, I practiced for 5 minutes, and then I got a 60. Awesome. I'm going home. Don't work too long.
Okay. I know whose this is. I do. He's a rehearsal.
I've got it to move down so far this corner now, I can't get it to submit.
That's not there, you're trying to.
Yeah, I've done the
You should have
arrows.
done it 10 years ago, right? Yeah, there you go.
I can move the mouse to the see what, let me scroll down.
Oh, there you go. Just took me looking at it.
I guess.
I'm good, how are you? You need one with more juice?
Well, I can barely get the screen to move up and down.
This one works really well. You wanna try that one?
Are you not in here next time? Yours is.
Yeah, you can take it.
Oh my God, it's working. It was really
Well,
frustrating.
that one's not gonna work, that one's gonna work, because there's only 4 judges.
I finally got it to work, but I wouldn't want to use my hand.
So we can go ahead and get this one. Is it just for one? Yes, there's one more. One day. See you later. Oh, my pleasure.
Hi, guys.
The person before you always
It's in the wall, you have to walk through it.
Where are they?
You can wear something. Just put it on the front. Get out here. Oh, is that right?
No, yeah, for kidding. I like sheep.
Here's mine. Perfect. Thank you so much. Spencer's here somewhere still.
Wasn't for the Cardinal department, isn't pretty cool.
Do you want to?
The Cardinal department, pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Or chocolate.
I can deal with that. I like water.
No, it's fine.
Got that on camera.
Okay.
No, you had to wait forever, huh?
Yeah.
Finally take your turn. Lisa, are you okay?
Yes.
All right, we are good to go.
Are my judges ready? Jim Rohn once said, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments."
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dalton Thompson, and I believe that bridges are helpful structures that can allow quick travel from place to place. However, the arch bridge is better than other bridges because the arch can allow more weight, is sturdier, and can travel further distances than the other bridges. And my goal for my project was to build a literal bridge. And in order to do this, I had to be disciplined about my work because of the challenges I faced and the time I had. One of the reasons I decided to build a bridge was because my family needed a new bridge for the creek bed for when it floods. The old bridge we had was all old and it couldn't hold weight and it would break a lot. Also wanted to make something that other people could use even when I leave and I go to college and go on my own life. They can use it and they can remember me by it. I wanted to build something with my own hands that I could have admired, that I worked on, and not on computers that's just internet. With the amount of bridges that are in the world, people think they collapse all the time, but however, this is not the case. Bridge collapses are very rare and do not happen for how old many bridges are and how many there are in the world. Bridges have been around forever. Stone bridges that were made years ago before we were able to use steel and concrete still withstand up to this day, and people use them many times. And more often than not, bridges need to be repaired, because something could happen to support beams or one of the cables. Something happens, they have to be repaired. This can take anywhere from about a week to almost 2 months if it's a serious repair. And it's better than a collapse because if a bridge collapses, it takes many months and a lot of money to clean up and replace the bridge. The type of bridge I decide where it goes is depending on the environment. If it's a bridge that has to go over a canyon or a river, then it has to be different than a bridge that's gonna just go around a mountain or over soft land that people travel over. A bridge has to be able to survive natural disasters if it's in an area that has many natural disasters. Like a column bridge is built in high seismic areas because the columns can support against an earthquake and they will not collapse like if a cable bridge was there. However, a cable bridge is better for areas with high wind because the cables can allow for the bridge to sway a little bit but not give too much, and it cuts down the amount of pressure that the winds will have on the bridge. In the future, bridges had to be safer and more durable because the population of the world is increasing and people are traveling more. And the technology we have in order to build bridges is increasing. We can precast concrete now for columns and it's cheaper and safer. We can use stronger steel, and we can map out like places that will have earthquakes. We can see if they're going to have a high seismic other than other areas. Bridges also need to be able to connect new places. Places that don't have a lot of tourism or places that just aren't on the map and people don't know about because there's no way to get to them or they have to go a long detour route in order to get there. What is that? Bridges are important because they can improve relationships between cities. Like the Brooklyn Bridge improved the relationships between Brooklyn and Manhattan. The bridge went over the Brooklyn River and connected these two areas. These areas used to not get along because they had two very different cultures. And the gang violence there was horrible, and they just couldn't get along because everything that happened. But the bridge allowed for this because people could get along more, they could travel more, and the cultures eventually ended up mixing together, and the gang violence and everything went down, which led to an increased population because people go in there, they weren't afraid for their lives or their families' lives because they won't have to worry about getting in the middle of a gang war or anything. It also improved the economy because there's more tourism, that means there's more people there buying stuff and just looking around and going over the bridge because not many bridges go over big rivers that can connect rival cities. For my product, I built a arch bridge that went into my grandparents' creek bed. The bridge was 12 feet long and 4 foot wide and had about a 6 to 7 inch gap arch. How it was built. In order to build a bridge, I had to use a bunch of cinder blocks to put in the middle of the bridge and use people to help weigh down the sides to bow it enough where once I released it and all the stress went, it would still have an arch in it, not just go straight to being straight. And it was tough to screw the boards because we had to bow multiple boards at once in order to screw them together. And the boards we did not have a lot of people, so it took a lot of work in order to keep them down and straight in order to screw them and not them pop up and just the screws pop up and not hold together. Challenges. The challenges I faced was early on in the year, my original mentor, an unexpected occurrence happened and he was not able to be my mentor anymore. I was not able to use any of the materials I needed to use in the shop building. And then the price. Originally, I thought my bridge would cost about $100 to $120. However, with the amount of boards I had to buy and the things that happened with the board splitting and everything, I had to buy many more, and it cost me over $200 in order to build. And I had a late start. With my mentor disappearing, I had to wait until we had a new shop teacher that we could use all the tools that I needed to use. So I was not able to start on my bridge until late January, and by the time that happened, I had very little time in order to build my bridge before the deadline. And as Jim Ross said, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. In order to get my bridge done, I had to be disciplined because I couldn't procrastinate like I usually do with many of my projects. I had to work hard every day with the time that I was given in order to get it done because I had less than 2 months in order to get it done. Thank you. Any questions?
What's the most important thing you learned during this process?
To not procrastinate about anything, because if you think something's solid and you're gonna have it, it can disappear just like that with no warning or anything. Yes.
With this type of a project, do you have an interest in engineering?
I have
or?
a small interest in engineering. It's been something that's interested me for a couple of years, and I wanted to see how building a bridge worked and how I liked it.
And your plans for college, your area of study, are you going to incorporate maybe some of the engineering in it? Or?
I'm not quite. I'm stuck between engineering or going into like computer science.
Very good. Yeah. Both good careers.
Any more questions?
What was the hardest part of the project?
The hardest part was probably bowing the boards because it took a lot of people in order to keep them bowed and not pop up and keep them both at the same angle. Because you had to make the separate side, we had to make two sides and making them both the same arch and angle. Took a lot of work and retries.
But did you build it here at the school and then take it out to your grandparents?
Were they pretty happy with it? I bet they were excited.
They were pretty happy with the new bridge that wasn't falling apart.
Yeah, yeah.
But did you have an interest in bridges before? I mean, I know you kind of did your project for your grandparents, but was it something that kind of piqued your interest before that?
Bridges by themselves, not really. I mean, bridges used to creep me out as a kid because my mom always said to cover your head when going over them, going under them. It's been something I haven't really cared a lot about, but I've been told to go into engineering multiple times by many people, and I'd like to see how it worked and work on something with my own hands. And
I was interested to see if maybe with the floods and stuff, you know, with Hammond's Bridge, I didn't know if you were able to see any of that, you know, before and after when they were working on it.
Yeah.
Deep breath. Don't make the ground your
Do we need to do anything?